Stonecutters Podcast. Aaron Hankins
Will Catlett
in the building.
in the building.
So, Will, this week, we usually start off with a recap, but I wanted to give you a fresh question
Okay.
and ask you, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for today. What am I grateful for today? Man, I would say just the possibilities, man. Like the possibilities of what's next. You know, I'm just grateful for just to be in the opportunity right now to even have my mind to think about the possibilities of what's next. Like I just feel like I'm on the cusp of everything is about to break open for the kid, you know? Yeah, so I've been pregnant over here. I'm getting ready to birth this baby. So I'm excited about that. That's what I'm grateful for.
Okay.
The possibilities of what's next. What about you, good brother?
What am I grateful for? Today, I think that I'm grateful for our partnership and, our friendship and the ability, the both of us being fortunate enough to have a podcast, to be able to meet regularly, to have the resources to still be able to do this in a time when other people, either financially or mentally may not have this ability to get together and connect and to share information and make each other better. So I'm really grateful for that.
I'm also grateful for that it was 80 degrees in LA today. Almost time to go back outside.
Okay. Did you go outside?
You know, I went outside.
Did you practice social distancing?
Yeah, I was in my car.
Okay. Do you have
I don't know why people wear masks in their car. I'm not wearing a mask in my car.
But how about when you get out of the car? Do you wear a mask from your place to the car?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you got in the car and you drove around in the car. Did you get out of the car when you got to the location where you were going?
I did get out of the car.
Did you put a mask on then?
No.
Did you come into contact with anybody?
Yeah, but I'm at herd immunity right now. You know what I'm saying? I did, but it was from a distance. It wasn't like one lady said I got out of the car to go pick up a drive. And when people that's listening, I'm talking about a drive. This is a drive where the editor was editing some stuff for me. And I went to go pick up the drive. Of course, he leaves the drive on the porch, so we don't have any contact. So I pick up the drive. I drop him a card. And then as I'm coming back to my car, this older lady and her husband, she has to be, 80, 90 years old. And she's at the house across the street. And she says, "Hey, you look like Denzel. You're so handsome coming out of that car." I said, "Well, thank you, ma'am. I receive, And we had a dialogue. And she said, "You're so blessed. And I just want to let you know that God is in control." And then her husband came out and he said, "Hey, man, you're blessed, man." He said, "Hey, babe, doesn't he look like our nephew Denzel?" So I don't know if their nephew Denzel or how it worked, you know what I mean? But only Denzel that I was thinking about is Denzel Washington, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So we had this beautiful conversation at about, I think, a distance of about 15 feet. And I said goodbye. They said goodbye and invited me to their church. And, when things are opening up again, and if I can watch online. And I told them thank you for the compliment and drove off.
Okay.
So I got my human interaction today. That was awesome.
All right. This is an interesting question for you. Have you driven past LeBron's house in LA? Do we know where LeBron lives?
I think, and I believe that LeBron is in Brentwood. I have no reason to go to Brentwood. So I have not driven past LeBron's house. I think that'll be kind of stalkerish for me to drive past LeBron's house. I don't even know if you can get up to LeBron's house.
It's in one of those gated communities.
Yeah. It's Bron. You got Bron like the president. You got to have a pass to go talk to Bron.
Mm-hmm. So I brought up LeBron because of our podcast last week. We planted the seed for our future guest on the Stonecutters podcast, which will be LeBron James.
LeBron James.
At a date to be determined in the future.
In the future.
And we put that out there and we set that intention. And we talked a little bit about why and how and what it looks like. Well, Will, I wanted to share with you that, I've had, a few people reach out to me, and one of them, was like, hey, I can put you in touch with this person or that person. And I wanted to run that by you on the podcast and just get what your thoughts were on, like, what do you think about that?
So hold on. Wind that back to me for our listeners. Mm-hmm. So the person said what now?
The person said that they work with I guess it's the media, the production company, Uninterrupted. They used to work there. They have connections there, and they were like, hey, I can put you in touch with people at Uninterrupted, and kind of it's somebody who's been listening to the podcast, one of our longtime listeners, and they're just like, hey, I'm just putting this out there. I know that you and Will, y'all move, differently. You move at your own pace, your own speed, your own cadence, whatever, what have you. And he was just like, just let me know if you need help, and I can set something up.
That's awesome. I mean, see how quick that came to pass. Even though if we don't jump on it just yet of his contact, which we may or which we may not, it just depends on the timing and letting it be organic and authentic. But I think the main purpose of why I'm excited about that is because, one, we set the intention. Two, we planted the seed. Three, we put it out into the universe. We spoke about it. So it has no choice but to come to pass. So we're like one connection, maybe two. Everybody say 6 degrees of separation. So we're very close to have LeBron on the show at some point. And what I was speaking to you a little bit offline about is that you want to have it at the right time. You don't want to have him on, but we still got work to do. So now I'm even more excited because as the podcast grows, as the podcast gets better, we can set the red carpet for the king to walk in when he walked in, and then we would have grown. We would have reached different accolades, even though it's not about all that, but it's about progress. And LeBron is about progress. He's about progress, and we're about progress. So to our listeners on the Stonecutters Podcast is to be encouraged. Don't wait sometimes on the how or the why. Just open your mouth and speak something. Open your mouth and declare where you want your future to be. And so when me and my brother get on here and we talk, we're putting action behind things. Thoughts become things, So I gotta shut up. Because I'm about to jump up. I'm about to jump up right now. I'm about to jump up. Go and take over, brother.
Stonecutters Podcast. Aaron Hankins, Will Catlett. You can listen to us on stonecutterspodcast.com, iTunes, Stitchers, YouTube, Google. Who am I missing? Somebody. We're on all streaming platforms. Most streaming platforms. Will, to just bring it back in, action begets more action, right? So yep. We talked about it last week, and guess what? If we didn't have a podcast this week, we wouldn't have taken all those things that happened, people commenting and things like that, and then reiterate it back onto the podcast. So like what we've been doing since the beginning of 2020 and the meeting and having, regular podcast discussions and then releasing those out to people and being able to do that, it's like we're just stacking and we're compounding. So all these different times that we're creating more and more action is just leading to bigger and better things. An analogy that we were talking about is baking. To people that listen to the Stonecutters Podcast, look up how to bake cookies, how to bake bread. You need the right ingredients. They need to be assembled, and they don't always have to be assembled in the same order, or if there's a right order or a wrong order, but they got to mix together. Some things have to proof, like doughs. You got to let them sit out for a little bit so that they can grow and they can do what they need to do. And then you have to preheat your oven, when you're baking something, right? and then you have to put whatever you're baking, you have to put it in the oven, and it has to be in the oven. It has to be in that heat, in that fire to
Go and keep talking, brother. Stonecutters Podcast. Keep talking.
It's got to, the heat is what causes those reactions to happen, right? And at that point, it becomes time and temperature. So for us, it's about how for the LeBron cake to finally bake, or the cookie to bake, or the bread to bake, right? The LeBron bread, right? Mm-hmm. It needs to be in the oven for a certain period of time at a certain temperature. Mm-hmm. So for us, temperature is effort, right? And the amount of time is the amount of time. So the more pressure, the more temperature, the more effort that we put into the podcast, actually the shorter it's going to take for that to bake. So you're listening, I need this to happen, right? It's got to be in the oven, right? You can turn up the temperature sometimes. Sometimes it has to sit at 350 and it has to stay at the same temperature so that it finishes. You got to be patient, right? You got to let it grow like a seed.
Brother, you on one. Time and temperature. Keep talking. Unpack that a little bit more. That one hit me hard.
It's time and temperature. Like when you cook food, like beyond baking, just in general, like when you're making pasta, the water's got to boil before you can put the pasta in. Like we can make food analogies all day, to sort of to make the analogy between like people trying to level up and people trying to get to the next level. The same thing happens with food. Like you take food that is too ripe, it's not ready to be eaten, or it's overripe. It's past its time, it's past its prime. Like you have to pick things at the right time to be used to make the right meals. So
we can just stop the podcast like right now. That was like enough just to even just stop right now. Because it makes me think about when we first started the podcast, and even to be talking about LeBron and future guests. You got to create a platform for LeBron to be on. The Lakers have to move things around and trade players to create the salary cap so that LeBron can be in LA. So when you're talking about time and temperature, it's all about what platform are you on. Just like the cake has to have a platform of an oven. The pasta has to have a platform of a pot with boiling hot water. So you got to create the environment for things to flourish. I think I'm talking to myself.
All right, let me do that. All right. What else, Will? What else is going on with you?
Well, I'm getting ready to drop this class, this shared experience soon. I believe it's going to be on Sunday. I got to drop with MJ. It's only right. You know what I mean? It's only right. It's only right. So yeah, man, we in the final stages of time and temperature of baking this baby. This baby is, this class that I've been working on, this shared experience that we talked about on a few podcasts ago. This is my giving back during this time, because you have to prepare people for the future. So many people are worried about, okay, like I met a guy in the elevator today, and I understood his pain and where he was at in his mind, in the situation he was in. And it was just from floor number 2 to floor number 1. And I looked at his cart, kind of had, you could tell that he was moving out. So I said, hey man, you moving out? He said, yeah, no job, no money. So I got to move out. And I thought about it when he said in a split second, I said, man, God bless you, man, it's going to work out. Because he's on his way to his next transition. But I wondered if he thought about other ways to change that situation, because you can tell that it was just such in a negative place. Instead of saying, hey, maybe this move out is an opportunity for something greater, for something, you know what I'm trying to say, something that will really birth you into something next. It's almost like a person getting a pink slip. You know, you got fired at this job, but if you didn't get fired at that job, you wouldn't have opened up your own company to make millions and millions of dollars.
Well,
So,
the fear there is that I get what you're saying, Will. There's a lot of people who believe that their book, the story of their life, is one chapter.
yeah.
And it's not multiple chapters. And when he loses his job and when he gets kicked out of his house, he's afraid that this is the book is over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And
yes, Aaron.
but it's difficult
mm-hmm.
to explain to people that the book of their life, the journey of their life, is many different chapters. And and some chapters you're at a high place, and some chapters you're at a low place. But there will be a next chapter, right? Because that's a tough thing to even have a discussion about somebody with. Like, how do you change somebody's mindset? You know, and that's what we're trying to get people to do that by listening to the podcast.
And someone may be listening to it. You may be in that exact situation. I remember being in that exact situation with my car. I had my high school car. I bought my first car, saved up $1,800, went to an auction, bought that car. That car was a minute. But my dad bought me my second car. I had that car from 2001 to 2013. And this is when I had quit my job to do acting full time. I remember being on a 101 highway and the car breaks down. And I'm sitting on the road of the highway. I don't have any money for a tow truck. So I just took a moment and stopped. And I said, okay, God, well, this has been a great vehicle for me. And I guess there's a new vehicle coming for me. And whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And I called my boy Brandon. And I said, Brandon, man, you got AAA because I'm stuck on the highway. So he got my car towed to the mechanic that I would go to in North Hollywood. He said, hey, man, you can't get the car. You might as well put it off to the junkyard. And the next vehicle for me, the next chapter of my book, was on the bus, on the train, taking the train to auditions, going from downtown to Santa Monica on the train, you know, going to get my hair cut on La Brea, taking the 14 bus. They takes me up to Beverly. And man, let me tell you, that chapter was amazing. I got to see LA for what LA really is. I couldn't see LA for what it really is in a car. And then it inspired me, like, man, I'm on the bus, I'm on the train. So when I'm going into auditions, I'm hungry. You know, I got that killer in me because I know what it's like to be in that grind. Now, what if I said, oh man, woe is me? I couldn't turn the page. Sometimes in life, you just have to turn the page. Just turn the page. Just simply turn the page. It may not be easy. It may be hard. Turn the page.
Stonecutters Podcast. Aaron Hankins, Will Catlett. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Podcasts. You can also find us on stonecutterspodcast.com. Will, we've been getting a lot of positive feedback through Instagram. Just want to remind people that you can also watch our podcast on YouTube. This week, Will has his Teddy P sunshades on once again.
Hey, see, I'm planting the seed though. You wise. I'm planting the seed. One day, I'll play Teddy Pendergrass. One day. But go ahead, keep on talking, brother.
If you have questions you'd like us to answer on the show, you can send those over at stonecutterspodcast@gmail.com. You can also send questions through our website, stonecutterspodcast.com. We always like to discuss things on the show other than me and Will just leveling each other up. You know, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, getting a different perspective. Will, I had a question for you. You're working on your shared experience, and right now you're working. You're getting things done. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's a lot of people. You just met one who's sort of down on their luck. Do you ever feel guilty for wanting to be productive in this sort of time that we're all like under lockdown?
No, because I have a purpose in life and I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. This will pass. So I'm preparing myself to walk into everything that I'm supposed to have. Now, let me break that down a little bit more. I've been watching a lot of documentaries. So I watched the one on Trump on Netflix. And the one thing about our president that I love is that as a young man, he, in his mind, he does not see defeat. He does not see loss or losing. It doesn't exist in him. And when you watch the documentary on Netflix, he had a moment where he wanted to he wanted to build a building. I think it was, I don't know if it was Empire State Building or something like that. He wanted to build some building and it wasn't working out for him. And he's like, well, times will come again where it's more favorable for me. So you talked about time and you talked about temperature. He understood that a time will come where it'll be more favorable for him. Even in the documentary, where after Obama roasted him, because he was getting on Obama about the birth certificate thing, and Obama roasted him at the dinner. The man leaves that dinner early and tells his lawyer to go trademark how to make America great again. This is 4 years before he becomes the president of the United States. See, it's a different type of mindset. You can't have failure in you. It cannot exist. Athletes have it all the time, even with John Jones. John Bone Jones does not know how to lose. It doesn't exist in him. He may feel it, he may be fearful of it when he goes into the octagon, but the man does not know how to lose. It just doesn't exist in him. And for our listeners, because we want to build up listeners who take on that mentality. Like I say all the time, you don't fail, you learn. You can't have a defeated mind. You got to see it and you got to go towards it no matter what. I didn't want to get on a tangent, but you know what I'm saying? Because that's what I think about, like working during this time. It's nothing more than just be obsessed over something. And I was telling you offline and you were sharing it with me because you just getting ready to drop your movie, your documentary that you've been working on. Woohoo, yeah! I'm excited about it to watch your pre-release. And you've been obsessed over this overshoot. I've been obsessed over this shared experience. So you have to be obsessed over the thing that you're working on. And you know that it's bigger than you. What I'm doing, the work I'm doing, people will benefit from it 100 years from now. If I was to die tomorrow, God forbid, I left you something that can change your life. I can't worry about the corona to the point where it keeps me stagnant. I can't worry about if, because hey, listen, we're all in a situation. This thing can last till June, to July, to August. And if we have to turn the page and move out of our place, which we paying a nice little price to stay in our place. But me and the wife and the baby, like, listen, if we got to move, even if we got to go live with a friend, I'm going to turn the page because it's part of the journey. The key is to accept your greatness and to accept that in life, you have to turn the page and it's about creating moments and memories. That's it. So it's a memory when you're like, remember my car stopped working when I was on a one-on-one trying to be an actor. Remember even the guy, because we don't know his next page. That's how he felt in the elevator. But when he gets to his next page, when he gets in a house or home, wherever he's going, he's going to say, man, I'm so happy that that situation happened to me. And now I'm on to building something else or building an app or creating more opportunity or creating a protection plan. So when another pandemic comes, people don't have to experience what I'm experiencing. So it's about thinking forward, not thinking stagnant.
The challenge is, how do you get people to think forward when they never been encouraged to, or they, we have a victim mentality where
Mm-hmm.
everything is happening to me and everything is being thrust upon me. And
Right.
the things that you're talking about are more of things didn't like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. It's like you experienced something and
Mm-hmm.
it changed you either positively or it changed you negatively. It didn't stop you in your tracks. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people lose their job and they lose everything about themselves immediately because they have so much of their identity tied into a single job or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna have to think a little bit more about this because there's a lot there. Like we have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have that mindset,
Mm-hmm. And
but
we
I don't.
have it. And we have it sometimes. It's not all the time.
Okay.
It's not all the time. I don't want to come on a Stonecutters podcast and act like I'm not like that man in the elevator sometimes. That would be a lie. There's times when I'm in pilot season, when all my friends around me on book me pilot, and I ain't got not one damn pilot. And I know how talented I am, and I'm looking good when I'm going in the room and I'm killing it, you know. And it's not about me; it's about the role. We'll get into that when you watch the shared experience. But however, we get like that sometimes, but we have to build up enough mental strength so that when the time comes, we can lean on what we've already thought about.
Mm-hmm.
You can lean on the Stonecutters podcast and say, you know what, I'm in a rough time right now. Let me listen to this episode over and over and over and over again until I feel like turning the page. Accept and turn the page. We talked about temperature. It takes time to bake. If you bake it too hot, you're going to destroy it. But you need fire to be purified, to get the impurities off so you can be your best you. Remember you told me that. You remember I went through that breakup and you said, Will, you're like a sword getting hammered, right? That's what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to go through the fire. And look how sharp I came out. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Look how sharp I came out, you know, but I had to go through that. I'm thankful for that. But the key on the Stonecutter podcast, I don't know why we're talking like this tonight, because maybe we're talking to somebody tonight that just needs to accept and turn the page. Kobe, when he kept hitting them shots over and over again, said, I just had to accept that they were going in. We just have to accept and turn the page. Turn the page. Karen, turn the page. Jonathan, turn the page. Tabitha, turn the page. Mike, turn the page. If I didn't mention your name, turn the page. I'm talking to you, okay? I'm talking to you. I'm even talking to myself. There's some things in my life right now that I just got to accept and turn the page.
All right. Stonecutters Podcast. Aaron Hankins, Will Catlett. I think we had a really good talk tonight, man. I really don't want to add anything to that because it's good, and you made me think of a lot of different things. There is one podcast, actually, it's on a podcast, but it's actually Les Brown. He had a speech a long time ago. It's called "Your Dream Is Possible," and for me, for a very long time, I would listen to this 35-minute podcast at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
On my way back and forth to work, the same podcast over and over again. So you talking about this podcast being a resource for somebody to continue to listen to until they feel the energy that they need to turn the page is great. And I also want to let you know that I've had a few people reach out to me, and they've also just been like, hey, I listened to a couple episodes and then I went back to the first couple and I listened to all of them, you know, all the way up to, I think we're on 28. It's either 28 or 29 for us. They went back and listened to all of them. They were just like, hey, in this time that we're in right now, it's extremely helpful. And it's been great for them to be able to listen to that, and it's helped them out. So I wanted to share that. I wanted to share that with you. So
that's awesome. I want to challenge our listeners to do something. And I want you to do an act of kindness. You remember back in the day when you can go to your neighbor and you can borrow some eggs, some sugar. I think we need to get back to that during this time. You know, if you bring some flowers to somebody's door, you knock on the door and just leave the flowers. bring a carton of eggs or something. It's a good opportunity when we talked about everything that we talked about on here, bacon and temperature and all that. This week, do something for somebody and watch this how you just feel and the positive energy that you put out into the world. You'll be making a change. Sometimes the change is not just in a stimulus check or, paying your rent or getting some money or whatever the case may be. It's just being available for somebody that needs you. Like that guy in the elevator today. I could have not asked the question. But even in that, he can see that I was concerned. And I said, man, God bless you. It's going to be all right. Because I remember, before we end this Stonecutters podcast, I remember, this is so funny. This was the time when I was in LA, 2007. I said, I've been grinding for a minute out here. And I was broker than broke. There's a couple times I've been broke out here, So I was broke. And I remember, because I was living downtown at the time. And I'm walking down the street, and this homeless guy says, hey, man, can you give me $1? And I looked at him. I ain't got no money. And he looked at me and said, hey, man, it's going to be all right, man. You look real serious about that. It's going to be all right. Oh, man, I could have cried because I had got to that mindset that I was just in a lack space because I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to do all these different things. And, you're going through different relationships and you kind of, over your head. But even in his situation, he had enough love in him to say, hey, man, brother, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And so maybe that this week, we just got to do more of that. Telling people it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And look at us now. I could put shades on and talk to you. Because you know why? It's going to be all right. It's a Stonecutters podcast. Will Catlett.
Aaron Hankins. We out.
We out.